I'm Nancy Trieu, and for many of you know, I'm a mindset coach, a photographer, and filmmaker. Tonight, I bring to you the amazing Mark Flores, who is going to share three amazing tips in how to create a six-figure creative business. So, what we're going to do, have your pens and your paper ready as you and I are going to have an amazing time tonight. So make sure you exercise the wrists and your fingers because he's going to give us so many tips that your hands will probably be tired at the end of it. So it'll be like exercise for the phalanges and the mind tonight. Great. And now I want to ask and hand it over to Mark. Mark, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hey Nancy, hey guys, how are ya? So just in a nutshell, I'm a creative. I'm a creative at heart, and I remember when Nancy asked me to join the group. It really piqued my interest because that's my background. So I started off with drawing pictures back in high school, and I got into music quite a bit. And music actually became a really big passion of mine. I started playing in bands. I taught myself how to play guitar. So I did that for 10 years, playing live music, mainly around Sydney. So that's where I'm based. And then I got into videos, and that's where I launched my own business called Falcon Creative, where we did start off more as a video production agency. And now we're more of an overall, not just production, but actually helping people drive results for their business. So it's an overall modern marketing solution for business owners out there. So guys, if you want to stick around, what I'm going to be sharing with you is the 3 steps to creating a 6-figure creative business in any, and mainly a service-based business in general as well. So at the start, I'm gonna go through the top 3 mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs experience and how to solve that. And then towards the end of this live video, then I'm going to be talking more about what are those 3 steps to actually help take your business, to that next level, whether it's you want to go from 4 figures a month to 5 figures a month consistently, or take your business to 6 figures. That's what I'm going to be teaching today. As Nancy said, get your pens and paper out. But I want to actually make this more, not so much information based, because I don't want to bombard you with information. I just want to share with you some simple tips, some really big key takeaways that you can get out of this, and you can apply that straight away.
Beautiful. And before we kind of like also continue that, for everyone out there who's live watching with us, please, I would love to know who you are. Say hello. And also, what creative business would you like to start? Or what creative passions you already have that you are thinking of wanting to create and do something about it? Maybe monetize it or share it to the world. Because I guess for, many of us, money is a byproduct of our passion. So share with us what you do and what you would like to do. Thank you.
Love it. I mean, like Nancy said, we are going live, and we're open for you guys to engage with us. If you've got any questions, feel free to comment it below. We might not get to it straight away, but we'll do our best to answer those questions maybe towards the end of this live video. So yeah. And so, okay, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go through first. What are the top 3 mistakes a lot of entrepreneurs make in growing their business online? So here we go. So the number one, the first mistake is no particular order, but a big mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make online, especially creatives, is positioning themselves as a service provider instead of an expert. Okay, so take a note of that, right? Now, we all know that, if you're a web designer, if you're a videographer, if you do calligraphy, if you do any sort of creative, you've got a creative passion and you've got a business around that, then yes, naturally we are providing a service, right? We're service providers. But what I'm talking about in this example, the mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make is it all comes down to positioning, right? So if you've ever had someone come to you and they start asking questions like, how much do you cost, or how much does your products and your services cost? I've even had someone on another Facebook where they post a question. If someone came to you, so if someone asked you during a sales call, like, why should they choose you over another service provider, right? Or another web designer? Why should they choose you? So if you ever get questions like that, where people are asking you, and you having to actually justify why you're the best person to work with, then it's because of a lot of it comes down to your positioning, right? If you've ever felt like someone's come to you and they've, if you felt like your time wasn't valued, right? They didn't really value your time. And they're asking questions that didn't really value your time, then it does come down to positioning. And that's because you've positioned yourself as a service provider instead of an expert, right?
And
So,
can you elaborate on what position is specifically?
for sure. So yeah, exactly. You're probably wondering, so what's the difference between the service, or how do you become an expert, right? Well, it all comes down to the know, like, a lot of it is a know, like, trust factor, right? So for a lot of creatives, when you're on social media, we're very good at building the know. So we're very good at building awareness, visibility. This is what we do. This is our products. This is our service. This is what we do, right? That's most people can do that, and a lot of people can build the like, right? Which means you create affinity, you start to engage with them, they start to like you, they start to like what you do, right? But very few people actually know how to build the third part, which is the trust. And the trust is a lot of that comes down to positioning and specifically how you position yourself as an authority, right? As an expert. And that's the part where a lot of entrepreneurs struggle to actually know how to position themselves as an expert. Because when you think about it, compared to a service provider and an expert is someone who's busy, right? There's someone who's a specialist, someone who naturally you're going to have to pay more because they're going to produce a bigger result for you, right? So if you're a service provider, what usually happens is you might position yourself more as a generalist, right? So you're solving pretty much everyone's problems, right? So if you had to choose between a generalist and a specialist, like if you had a broken roof, and who would you choose? Someone who fixes houses in general, or would you choose someone who actually specifically fixes roofs, right? So
And
does that make
like
sense?
breaking it down, sorry,
Yeah, no, go for it.
this is beautiful. Breaking it down, many of us will probably have the objection, well, buying a plant will have a particular price. Whereas a service, it's like there will be questions, especially as a creative. How do I charge for my service? How do I charge for my value in doing what I do? That is a very common thing for us creatives, isn't that right?
Well, I'm actually going to go show you in the next slide as well. It actually picks up from how do you actually position yourself as an expert. I'm going to answer that question too. So let me just share with you the next slide. So this is mistake number 2, right? Is it's actually focusing on the product and the features of your products instead of the actual benefits, right? So that's a key mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make. So what that means, like going back to, a lot of people are worried about how they're going to price their product or their service, right? So usually when they get, if you're unable to position yourself as an expert, the type of language that you're likely to use is if someone inquires about your work, and then they might go straight away, they're going to ask you, how much does this cost, right? And if your answer is, okay, it costs this much, this is how much it costs, right? Then you haven't actually positioned yourself well, and you start talking about the pricing first before you actually communicate the benefits, right? And the reason why that's not an effective strategy is, one, you're assuming straight away that if someone inquires that they're gonna become a client straight away, right? So you're assuming that you're gonna help them, but you haven't even figured out what they need, what they want. So you've always got to unpack it from the beginning about understanding like what is it? What is the results that they're after? Right? What is the desired outcome? And then going from there to, and then figuring out, okay, what is the metric? Like this is sort of like a 4-step sales process as well, from finding out what is the key objectives that this person has, and then what is the metrics, meaning, okay, if they achieve this, what does it look like? Is it they want to get an extra 10 clients per month, right? So becoming tangible on what the results look like. Then once you can figure that out, once you can figure out, okay, this is what they want, this is where they want to go, then you can work out if you have the solution for them, which is in this gap in between. Then that's where you can start to talk about, okay, this is the scope, this is the method to get you from here to here, and this is the investment for it. Does that make sense? For a lot of entrepreneurs, they actually go backwards, right? They go, okay, this is the price first, this is the scope, right? This is the features. And then they go later, what is the outcome? And then they realize, oh, this person's not even ideal for me, right?
Beautiful.
So,
And we have a question from Billy saying, so going more into detail then.
going more into detail. So I think one thing is, before you worry about how to price your work, right? Is figure out, like, be focused more on what is the solution I'm going to create for someone, right? And then you can price your work based on the value that you're giving, rather than okay, is it going to take me 3 hours, going to take me 5 hours, 10 hours to do this work, and this is how much it's going to cost. So a lot of creatives, they do this is how much it's going to cost per hour. When the expert, they don't do that, right? What they do is they package their services or their products, and they price it based on the value, based on the transformation that someone's going to get. And they're going to get paid more, because at the end of the day, what someone wants is a result. They don't want the products or your features. They want the transformation, the results. So if you know how to communicate those things, then you're going to be seen more as an expert. So really, that's the first step.
And I would like to jump in here as well, because it's very important. Like, of course, when it comes to certain products or things like having a plant, you can easily look at, and that is a tangible thing. When we do stuff, it is very intangible. And intangible, it is also a way of finding a solution. And sometimes solutions for many would be sometimes what they call KPI, which is a tracking record of knowing where your numbers are. As many creatives, numbers aren't always our thing. However, this is something that's quite important, that we do need to find that balance between. Okay, so here's a question for you. When it comes to yourself, you know what you love to do. You already are passionate. You're already the expert, because you're living and breathing the creative passion that you have, the skill that you have. Yes, the way Mark mentions, it is about the communication, because a lot of us will be like, oh, thinking about the numbers first. And when it's like, oh, I can do all of this, and it's like, oh, I don't know how to price it. Now, how I've learned over many years is like, money is like an energy. And it's actually, I've learned this really recently. I love to share with all of you. Business is an art. It is a beautiful artistry. We seem to sometimes break it apart, saying, oh, business is not our thing, whereas creativity, we can just do whatever we want. If you kind of like switch your mind up, just shift it a little bit and just like find curiosity, that business is an art itself, a different art, but it's an art.
Yeah.
That's where we can actually start bridging that gap. So the way Mark has said, breaking it down, he's just going to take you to another level. Thank you.
I love that, because as a creative, we're right brain, right? So we're all about vision. We're all about, the visuals and the aesthetics, right? For a lot of us, not, I'm sure there's many different types of creatives out there, but knowing how to switch from the right brain to the left brain, meaning like what Nancy was talking about numbers, is one way to make things tangible. So when you're communicating your message or your offer online, then knowing how do you make that tangible, so that when someone sees what you're writing or what you're saying, that they can actually picture it specifically in their minds. Because as a creatives, for us, it's quite easy, right? Because we're so visual, we can easily picture these things in our mind. But putting ourselves in our clients or our customers' shoes is a different game. And that's the switch when you go from someone who's a hobbyist to someone who's actually a business owner and making and creating and has a profitable business, right? So for a lot of creators, we're so passionate about what we do, right? And that's where really a lot of it really starts, right? But when you become an entrepreneur, then it's actually leading with other people's passions and what they're passionate about. Does that make sense?
100%.
So
And
it's switching from, yeah.
I'd love to drop this beautiful gold because Victoria has asked good advice. You're assuming the client has a knowledge you have. I'm in the arts and I'm extremely subjective, 100%. And this is a gold I'd love to drop for you guys. Remember, art is what? It's not about the thing, it's about the feeling. So
Mm,
sometimes the solution isn't always about the thing. It is always like what Mark mentioned, the outcome. An outcome is also about the feeling. It doesn't always necessarily have to be a feeling, but it is a solution to it.
yeah.
It's kind of like if you're feeling a bit down, what would you like? You want to feel good. Art is about expressing and connecting something beyond the tangible. If there's a little bit confusing, please write in the comments. Okay, so Billy did also ask the question, is money based on the person time or the product?
So, okay. So when you say money, I'm not sure if you mean like pricing the work. Um, so I guess that's something we talked about earlier, where if you're sort of unclear about how do you price your work, then always think about like what is come from a place rather than this is how much it's going to take you to do that work. So you charge per hour. Rather than doing that, always think about what is the value or the benefits that my client is going to get and price your work or package it based on the overall value. Does that, yeah.
He said your time in work.
What's that,
So yeah,
sorry?
he said your time and work. So let's just say this
Okay.
is always an interesting debate when it comes to the non-tangible and the art. So
Awesome.
how did you build yours, Mark? How did you start deciding what's your price?
Um, like obviously there's many ways that you can do that. Like if you look at your industry and look at like what are people like your competitors, for example, like what is the sort of general pricing that's happening in your industry, right? That's probably a way that you can start, right? And then you're going to find that there might be a very common ground in terms of, okay, there's a majority of people that prices this much, right? And what you're going to find, and this is earlier on, is that a lot of the service providers, in terms of they position themselves as a service provider, they're all competing on the same price, right? But when you learn to actually develop your expertise and be seen as the expert and the authority in your field, and you can learn how to stand out in your industry, then naturally you're gonna see, okay, in order for me to stand out, then my pricing is going to be a little bit different than all these people here, right? So a lot of that, it might come down to experience. It might come down to your own confidence of you being confident in the way that you price your work as well, right? But like I said, don't beat yourself so much if you feel like, oh, I did my pricing wrong, right?
Yeah,
The
100%.
key really is to serve people, right? Just to start helping people. And then from there, naturally, you're going to learn how to price your work.
Yeah, beautiful. And trust me, guys, this is hence why self-mastery is a big important thing because it's always ever evolving and growing. And just to share like a little bit of myself for those of you who do know me, when I started, it was like I did a lot of things for, trading time for my service because building a portfolio, especially as a creative, it's like proof is in the pudding. So the more you have a little bit more of a collection, people can start visualizing from what you're trying to showcase and say. Even though we know that you have the talent, many people who can't visualize, they only want to see your, how to call it, what your portfolio, as they call it. And when I started, it was pretty much a lot of time for print. And then eventually it was like sometimes covering travel expenses with time. And then over time, it evolved into, pricing myself. As I built my confidence, I do price what I price now. So it is an ever evolving thing.
It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think just one thing to note is just don't fall into the trap of tying your self-worth based on your pricing, right? That's got nothing to do with your self-worth. It's just your own journey for where you're at. But just focus on, okay, this is actually the result I'm going to help someone get. And then, you can start to get a feel, or even, just by observing the market of okay, this is how I'm actually going to start pricing my work, right? Does that make sense?
And Billy said, isn't it more about word of mouth of the work the person has done than money itself?
I guess that.
That's a very good statement.
So it sounds like to me, it is a question based around social proof. So do you mean like the more people talk about you, then you can price your work more? I think that's what he means. I'm not sure. But if so, um, and I think this is part of what I teach as well, is that like you don't actually need thousands and thousands of followers to be able to charge this much, right? You don't have to have this, in order to charge as much as this person with 20,000 followers or 30,000, doesn't mean you can't do it because you don't have that many. Like I said, I'm going to repeat this many times, is you always charge based on the value and the result that you can get someone, not because you've got 10,000 followers or someone is raving about you or everyone knows you, like your Tony Robbins, for example. If you can help someone get a result, then you need to build the confidence that, okay, I can help someone get there. So this is how much I charge. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you. Oh, Victoria wrote this. So true, you forget to price yourself and just accept the budget on the project. Been stung by the bee many times. Thank you so much, Victoria. Yeah, guys, look, we've all been there. So, like Victoria mentioned, please drop in the comment who here also has experienced this. I definitely have.
So I'll just go through the next three mistakes. So after this, guys, I'm going to reveal to you the three steps to take to creating a six-figure creative business. So stick around. So this is the last key mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make online, and we've discussed a lot of this already. Is really neglecting sales and marketing, right? If you truly want to fast track your success as a creative, and taking your passion, turning your hobby into a business, then you really got to consider investing into understanding more around sales and marketing. I mean, I know for me, and for a lot of even my clients, that's where the big change happened for me, is when I invested myself in a business coach, in a marketing coach. Like I didn't even have any business acumen when I started out. I knew nothing about business. So for a lot of creatives, it's like that, because we're driven by our passion. We're driven by, this is what we love to do. And when it comes to the business side, it can be a lot of this left field. It's not very appealing to us, right? So, like I said before, it's being able to merge, those two worlds, where it's not just about your passion, but focusing on other people's passions. It's not just about the sort of visual, non-tangible things, but learning how to create tangibility, like working with numbers, that sort of thing. And in this sense, it's upskilling yourself when it comes to sales and marketing. So I'm going to go through the next three steps. Yeah. If you've got, but before I do that, have you got any questions? Anything you want to say, Nancy?
Yeah, and also keep in mind, guys, this is always an ever evolving process, because many of us would always want to think of that end goal. And I know that I've actually have made some workshops on goal settings, which I'll be creating another one very soon, so that 2022 we can go be stronger and better together. So when it comes to goal things, yes, we always want that end goal, and sometimes it's always great to dream big. However, it's always like what Mark says is that process. What you do for your clients is hilarious, is also what we need to do for ourselves at times, is looking at where we want to go and in the solution and in finding and breaking down those steps, those small steps for yourself to be able to get there. Is it finding up, doing, a boot camp, like for example with Mark, or doing goal settings again, with me or somebody else? Is it also upgrading the skills? Is it continuous practice? How consistent do you want to be a master of will determine how consistent you are.
Love it. Cool, guys. So if you don't have any questions, then I'm gonna go through the 3 steps
Yep, no
to
questions.
to creating a 6-figure creative business. So number 1, let me just share my screen. Step number 1 is being able to establish your expertise and creating your mouth-watering offer. Okay. So for, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs where, for example, they're putting content, they're sharing a lot of stuff on social media, they've got landing page, all that stuff, but they're not attracting their ideal clients. They're not. It's not really converting their systems or whatever that is, and it's because they actually haven't established their expertise at the beginning, right? They haven't refined their offer. Right. So one of the ways that you can do this is really choosing your lane, right? And this is once again is what separates, that's like, for example, a generalist from a specialist, a service provider versus an expert, is knowing how to choose your lane. Meaning, you've got to decide that you can't just help everybody, that you've got to choose who is, rather than everybody, choosing that someone that you can help. Who is that specific person that you can actually help? Who is that ideal avatar or the ideal client that you can help? Because once you figure out, this is the person that you want to help, and you'll start learning things about them. For example, the big problems that they face in their life, their biggest goals, their desires, their dreams, where they spend their time on social media or offline. Even right down to this is their age, this is where they're located. So the more you understand who your ideal client is, the more the more effective that you're able to establish your own expertise, right? Because it's almost like working backwards. Like, once you figure out this is the big problem that you're going to solve for them, then from there, you can refine, okay, this is the method or the solution that I can, that I can create for them. So you work backwards based on, the needs and the wants and the pains and the challenges that your ideal client is going through. So that's one way to be able to establish your expertise, is really stepping into the shoes of your ideal client. And if you're sort of having challenges about figuring out who that is, then one good technique is where, if you look back in, say, the last 1 or 2 years of your life, and what are some of the biggest challenges that you went through, then chances are that you're in the best position to help someone overcome those challenges that you faced 1 or 2 or 3 years ago, that they're now facing today.
And I love to add this. A lot of us think we have to, being the expert is, you need to know everything. Actual fact, you don't need to know everything. You just need to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of them. That's all. That's a little gold drop. Another gold drop for you guys.
Love
Think
it.
about it. Remember when you were yourself? And if it helps with your avatar, who is your ideal client that you would want? Usually, you can sometimes refer a little bit a part of yourself, your past. Is like, well, if I had this, what would like to have? What is the solution or
Mm.
what did I look for? And that's where the language can be used as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I mean, even going back to that, the offer, the mouthwatering offer, um, once you figure out who is that ideal client is, and you know how the solution for them, then choose, and or be known for that. This is your core offer, right? So a big temptation that a lot of creatives have is putting out all sorts of different offers, right? They want to solve a problem by doing this, by doing this, by doing this, by doing this, by doing this. So they've got all these different offers out there in the market, and I'm a big believer in simplicity, right? And trying to, especially if you're starting out, you want to simplify as much as you can, right? So really choosing, like, what is your core offer? What are you going to lead with, right? If you understand that this is the big problem that you're solving for someone, then here's your core offer. Here's your solution. Here's what you're going to be known for, right? So the more unique a method that you have for getting that solution, uh, the more powerful that you'll be able to establish your expertise as well. So that's step number one. Step number two is, once you've established your expertise in your core offer, is now learning how to actually clarify and communicate your message online, right? So that could be a combination of, using the right piece of content like video or photo or even just text, plus the copywriting, which is the text part as well. So a lot of creatives, they go straight into, okay, I'm just going to put a piece of content, because that's easy for us. Naturally, creating content is easy for a creative, right? So, but like I said, if you haven't actually established your expertise and you don't have a core offer, a solution, then you're pretty much just throwing content out, right? So
I'd love to ask you, Mark, what
yeah.
is your message then?
So my core offer is, well, in terms of what I'm known for, is creating video content that converts into clients. So it's not just producing content that looks good on your website. A lot of what we're focused on results based. So we lead with video because I believe video is the most powerful, most engaging content that you can use. But having the infrastructure to support the video content and driving predictable results for our clients, that's our core offer. That's what I lead with. And
Great.
then I have tiny other offers underneath that, right? For example, if a potential client comes to me and they're not suited for my core offer, then if I can diagnose what they need or what they want, then I might have other different offers that I can offer to them as well. So for example, I have one-on-one coaching. I can do video production on its own, not just with the marketing. Sometimes I've got a team that does the social media management. And that's for a lot of our high-end clients. I've even got a workshop this weekend that's coming up called Video Rockstar Workshop that teaches people about how to turn video into a profitable client attraction asset, right? So, but really, my main core offer is what I talked about earlier. So if
Yeah,
that makes sense. So leading with that.
100%. And start with one message. What is the main core
Mm,
message? And because sometimes, for us to just think of a niche, it will take time for you to narrow it down. So start with a general idea because we're creative. We're going to have a lot of ideas. And this is like the tip and trick in my journey of working down to, hence becoming my niche as creative professionals, is from looking at it in general. Who do you really want to work with? Hence why the avatar is very important to just help give you more of a guide. And have an open message, then narrow it down, dig in deeper, because the messages that resonate for people are the messages that have meaning, and it's a deeper meaning, not
Mm.
like how are you going, not those general type of messages. It's like, for
Yep.
example, I like to use mine because I refined mine and still always going to be ever evolving. But right now, for my coaching, is I help creative professionals build confidence so that they can have more impact, influence, and income.
Mm.
And that was like, it took me about 4 months before I came up with that and worked with, a coach to refine it. And
Yep.
of course, it's going to be ever evolving. And yes, it doesn't mean that I just work on those things. I do help, creatives with focus, overcome overwhelm, overcoming anxiety, being able to have strategies for their marketing and business just as much as Mark. So have that message that will really resonate with people. Maybe you can ask yourself, would that message resonate with the old you?
Yeah, love it. And part of what Nancy was talking about is really, clarifying, refining your message online, the way that you communicate that. And also, like, the language that you use is also important. So a lot of what we do, it's not just posting videos, but accompanying that with the language that you're including in the video. So let me just quickly share with you as well. Um, as part of my slide. So there's actually a 10-step video formula, and this is actually what I'm going to be teaching in my Video Rockstar workshop this weekend. But I'm going to show you the 3 steps to clarifying your message online. So number one, actually, I've got the 3 steps up here now. So these are the 3 steps that I want to share with you. It's 3 out of the 10 steps. So one is what we call the scroll stopper. The other one is called the call out, and the other one is the hook, right? So the scroll stopper on social media, this is what's going to get someone to actually stop scrolling and pay it. And when they see your video, for example, in their news feed, they're going to go, whoa, I'm going to stop everything that I'm doing because this piece of content has actually interrupted my pattern. It's like a pattern interrupt, right? If there's any NLP coaches out there, then you're probably familiar with that term, right? The pattern interrupt. So things like, glitches that appear at the start of your video, or doing like hand gestures like that, right? Or if you're in an interesting environment, um, or even just text and fonts that's just popping up on your video. I've even seen someone who starts off his videos where he's got a wallet. He opens up his wallet and there's fire that comes out of his wallet. Right? So when you create content like video, for example, then think about, how am I actually going to get someone's attention in those first few seconds, right? So that's very important. And then the second one is the call out, meaning you're actually calling out who your ideal audience or your ideal client is that you want to attract, right? So for example, you might have this as text, or you might even say it on the video itself, or both. You might say, just as an example, are you a calligraphy enthusiast who wants to learn how to go from clueless to confident? Are you a coach or a consultant who wants to learn to scale from 4 figures a month to 5 figures a month, right? So calling out who your audience is, who is the ideal person you want to attract, is part of that first 3-step to that attraction phase. And then the next one is the hook, meaning what's actually going to get their attention and keep their attention, right? So it could, like as an example, it could be 3 big mistakes that a lot of beginners make with calligraphy, right? What is your hook? What is that line that's going to get them in to actually paying attention more? So for example, on this live video that Nancy and I shared, our hook is the 3 steps to building a 6-figure creative business, right? That's our hook, right? So think about those 3 things: the scroll stopper, the call out, and the hook. So that's 3 parts of a 10-part formula that I'll be sharing this weekend anyway.
Yeah. And also, I love to add here, because this is one thing that I've learned, and it's wonderful, the truth. If you have good branding and you make an effort, besides making it perfect, but you make an effort with your branding, it always supersedes the product or service. If you know how to communicate what you do across, you would always cross that finishing line.
Mm, love
This
it.
is just one of the way of the world. It's true.
Cool. I'm down. So I'm gonna be sharing you the step number 3. But before I do that, has anyone got any questions? Feel free. If you don't
Any
want to
questions?
say
Yeah.
now,
Any questions,
yeah,
comments? What did you
we can
love?
even
What
do
did you
Q and
like?
A at the end as well.
Yeah.
But if not, so here's step number 3: is 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 systemizing your marketing or systemizing your business in general, right? So this is the stage where now you're thinking about actually scaling your business. But for a lot of entrepreneurs that I've seen is they go straight into systemizing. Like, for example, they're going to start creating the landing pages straight away. They're going to put their email marketing in place. They're going to have CRM systems, scheduling systems, all these things. And then later on, they realize why I've got all this automation, but no one's signing up. No one's going to my offer. No one's signing up to my lead magnet, whatever that is. And that's because, going back to the other steps that we talked about earlier, they haven't actually refined it yet. So I would always go back to these steps. It's clarifying your message online and establishing your expertise and your mouth-watering offer before you actually attempt at building out systems for your business, because you're not going to get great results, and it's going to become more of an expense for you if you actually haven't done the previous steps, right? So systemizing is important in scaling. The reason for that is because you don't want to be a slave to your business, right? You want to create automation. You don't want to have to manage it like a job. You want to have some sort of automation in there, so at the same time you can actually drive predictable results into your business, rather than relying on what we call hope marketing, where you're posting a piece of content and then hoping and sitting back that a client's going to magically appear. Because if you have a system in place, then you can create more predictability, and that's a big thing that I teach. But also, we also have a done for you program to actually build that for people who are actually ready for that stage as well.
And I love
So,
to
yep.
add on to this as well, because it may be a lot for people, especially when you're starting. When you're starting, this is the best time where to experiment everything, even if it's like chat sequencing or reaching out to clients and doing that. Because as Mark says, as you grow your business, you can't do everything, and
Mm,
you don't want to keep doing and being stuck in the details, because we can get stuck in the details, and when that happens, everything else kind of slows down. So what he's mentioning, this is something definitely, as you're growing, you can start bringing other people on board, especially things that you're not so, you feel like you're not great at. Like, or maybe getting someone that can help do a bit more of the admin work
mm.
so that you can focus more on the creativity.
Exactly. If refining or clarifying your message, or even establishing your expertise in your offer is something that's quite challenging for you, as it was for me, at the start. And sometimes, like Nancy said, it's continually a work in progress. So if you ever get stuck, then the best way to get unstuck is to find someone who's done it, someone who can actually show you how to do it. So, one of the biggest things that's helped my business is finding a mentor or a coach that I can actually personalize or tailor to the solution that you're after. And, you can go out there, learn as much programs as you want. You can do all these courses, but nothing beats, having that one-on-one support. I'm not sure if that's something you've experienced, Nancy.
Oh, 100%. Though I'll actually, one up that. Nothing ever beats you taking action. Full stop. Because a
Yeah,
lot of us can sometimes want to run and just be like, oh, give it to somebody else. It's actually you taking action
yeah, and take
and giving it a go.
imperfect action as well. I think a lot of a big thing that holds a lot of creatives back, a lot of entrepreneurs back, or anyone with a big ambition in life is they're letting the idea of a perfect outcome get in the way of them actually taking action. So if there's something that you want to do, then let go of trying to make things perfect. Let go of, it has to be done this exact way. As Nancy said, it's all about taking that first step. Now, if it has to be a small step, great. There's a small step lead to big steps, but it's all about taking action, and taking imperfect action
And
as
I'm gonna,
well.
yeah, thank you so much. Like, and building off from this, I'm gonna give you this beautiful thing that I've learned to help you get unstuck with almost everything. Actually, anything really. Write
Nice.
this down. Get your pen and paper. Be curious. Write that
Ooh,
down.
I love it.
Whenever you're stuck, be curious. Change it instead of, because think about what's the thing when we get stuck? What's the words and the things we get? Oh,
Yeah.
how do I do this? I don't know. How, like, how, what? They're the things that get us stuck, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as you ask a question, like ask yourself this now. Think of something that you're kind of a bit stuck with and ask yourself this question. I wonder what it could be to do this.
Yeah. I mean,
That's it.
curiosity is an important, uh it could be a skill as well that you can build, because growing, when we grow up, when we go to school, we go to university, we're always told this is the way. You got to get a degree, you got to go to school, you got to get good marks. So we don't actually, our curiosity level actually goes down. We don't really have that conscious awareness of questioning certain things, because we just go with the flow, we just go with what society tells us. But if you're curious and you're asking those questions, then it's almost like you're using this your internal compass. You're actually activating your internal compass that's within you. That's your guide, your intuition, uh, in making actually better decisions, rather than relying on external voices to decide this is what you have to do, right? So being curious is a big thing.
Yeah. Actually, and Billy has asked, how do you get the confidence to say what you feel the product is worth? Oh, Billy, you just opened a
Mm.
whole big can of worms. I can really break it down and go through it with you.
Did you want to
It'll be a
answer
whole
that,
nother
or?
segment, honestly. It'll be a whole nother segment. How, actually, well, let's give us like, a bonus tip. How do you work on your product certainty, Mark?
um a lot of it really takes courage to have the courage to jump into the unknown. Like I said, it's taking an imperfect action. um so from there, once you actually start helping someone, yeah, it doesn't have to be in a big way, but you start to build the confidence when you're actually doing the thing, right? Rather than thinking about it, which will actually overwhelm you, and actually get in the way of you taking action. Go the other way. Actually, take action first, then let your actions influence your thoughts, your words, your language, because that's what's going to help you build confidence actually faster, right? Rather than trying to think your way to becoming more confident, right? You actually allow the action, allow the motion to build the confidence. So, yeah.
Beautiful. And guys, I also have written a blog on this because I understand when we come being stuck and as well as having that courage, that confidence. It is definitely like what Mark said, is by doing it. And this is something that you can also ask, is also repetition and believing in it in yourself. Because like same with like asking about pricing, this is something I'll love to share with you. When it comes to pricing, you're, as Mark has pointed out, you have an internal compass. You have an internal compass that will actually guide you to know, is this, is am I confident that I can ask for this price right now? If it's uncomfortable, shift it a little bit down and find where you're comfortable in really
Mm.
saying it with certainty. Because
Yeah.
when you have certainty, there's no other question, right?
Mm.
And hence why we're here. So Billy, when you mentioned that, one tips and tricks that I actually also use is also incantations. When you're certain with yourself and who you are, nothing will bowl you over. So sometimes it's repeating, like saying, you know what, I'm worth 5K. I'm worth 5K. This is my product. And you get it until you embody it into your system. This is what Tony Robbins have taught, as many other development, because it is about repeating it and embodying it into your body. When you have
Yep.
confidence, you're embodied. You don't have to think about confidence, right?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, thanks.
I'll probably just add one more as well, Billy. If you're someone who's looking to turn this into a business, or you're already running a business and you probably don't have that confidence in pricing your work, then actually get confident in getting someone a result, right? So a lot of times we focus on being more confident in our passion, being more confident in our craft. But that's it. We can always go back to that. We can always go back to our craft. That's easy. But my tip is, if you actually want to become an entrepreneur, and for anyone out there who wants to become a business owner, then an entrepreneur is someone who's actually solving a problem for someone else. So the best way to get confidence in pricing your products or your services is to get confident in actually getting someone a result, getting someone a desired outcome. So I would focus more on that.
100%. And that's where, when you have like testimonials and clients, read it back, because that will showcase, yes, I am worth this because I have already helped so many people. And this is a result I know I can deliver.
Yeah.
And I want to
And
read out, I love Victoria because she wrote down dreams into action 100%. And yes, be curious always. Thank you so much for sharing. And you also said the openness trait most creative have. Yes, like as a creative, 100% is being open. And same, like one thing I learn a lot of things, so I'm just like dropping gold here just as much as Mark. Is like the new marketing is transparency, it's
mm,
genuine, and authenticity is the new marketing.
mm, yeah. Even if you look at like the way that you create ads, the less your content looks like an ad, the more people are actually going to engage with it. And it's funny because that's consciously, that's where I've actually also, uh, whenever I'm creating content, in the last few months or even the last year, is how do I actually create content that's just completely transparent, that's relatable, that's authentic, without having to put all the fancy things like in having an ad, or all that gimmicky, all that flashy stuff, right? It's when if you show up as your authentic self, people, and you're relatable, people are more attracted to that these days. No one
And
really falls anymore for an ad,
yeah,
right? There's too many ads out there, right? Too much info.
and also like what he said, Billy has also asked, does age or experience make a difference? Bill, no, age and experience does not make a difference. Of course, having a result will make a certain difference. And I'm gonna just share this with you. When you first start, there will be a lot of inner work that needs to come out. And yes, when you like, especially I'll just use this as a big example. I hope this will help. When I first started photography, I had zilch portfolio. I had zilch contacts. I just had this dream. I just had this vision. This is what I want to do. And when I went out there and took action, I brought my own camera. Saved up money. I brought my own camera. Yes, I also did get taught in a studio, but that was me finding a job and putting myself out there to find that job, and then to build my own, networks and stuff was by just reaching out and just generally connecting with people and serving people. And as Mark said, serve, like serving from heart and soul is one of the biggest keys with this whole thing. So Asian difference, honestly, I don't believe it does, because you can have a different wisdom, a different uniqueness at the age of 30 compared to the person at age 50.
Mm.
That's on it. Like for me, I've learned that is a story we make. Because
Yep.
if we go back to curiosity, I wonder what if age and experience didn't make a difference for you? What if your age doesn't matter?
Mm.
What would stop you?
Yeah, like it goes back. It always goes back to the same for me. It's can you deliver a result? So it doesn't matter if you've been doing your craft for 10 years, or if you're someone who's only been doing for a year. So who would you choose? Are you going to choose someone who's been doing it for 10 years with a diploma, with a degree, he gets mediocre results? Or would you choose someone who's probably only doing it for a year, has no degree, has no experience, but they can get big results? Who would you choose? Who would you pay to do the job? Right? It's a no-brainer. Who can actually get you the result? It always goes back to that. And like I said, it can take you this long, it can take you a few years, it can take you months. So yeah, experience doesn't matter. Experience doesn't matter at all, as long as you can help someone get to where they want to be.
Beautiful. And if there's any other questions, is open floor now for a couple of minutes. Any questions, quickly pop it into the chat and we can answer them before we wrap this bad boy up.
Cool. Well, if you guys are thinking about questions as well, if you don't mind, Nancy,
Yeah,
so I went through the 3 steps to helping position yourself online. Right? There's actually it's actually a 10-step formula, especially when creating video content, which is actually something I'm going to be sharing at my workshop this Saturday and Sunday. It is coming quite soon. So if you guys are interested in learning how to edit and film videos to actually convert into clients, and we do video production, but also the video marketing, which is huge. That's where you're actually going to get the return of investment, is knowing the marketing side of things. So a lot of what I actually shared today in refining your message and clarifying your offer, we go through that. Right. So this is a 2-day workshop happening this weekend. So if you're interested in that at all,
and I'm dropping that in
spots are
the
almost
comments.
pretty much gone. There's probably only 3 spots left, because I actually want to make this. I don't want to make this too big, because I want to give everyone in there, my undivided attention, and ask their biggest questions as well. So we'll put the link in the comments below.
Already done.
If you're thank you so much. So yeah, hope to see you guys there.
So, any other last things? Please, guys, tell us, comment in what you love, what you learned, and what do we need to know. We'll love to hear feedback from you, and what else that we can serve you for that. Because, like Mark says, everything that we teach you, everything that we shared with you, would be like years and years, tens of thousands of hours of learning, and we're trying to break this down as succinctly as possible. That if you take action, there will be some result. If you want to expand that, this is where it's mastery, taking the next step. So ask yourself, where do you want to go? What do you think is the one thing you can start actioning today that will get you started? Any last words, Mark?
Take imperfect action.
And for me, is be curious always.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Ah,
Sweet. Well, I mean, guys, if you don't have questions now, you can always watch the replay of this. I'm sure Nancy will keep this up, and feel free to comment there as well. But that's pretty much it for me. If you got anything else, Nancy.
no, I'm pretty much like you've given so much gold. I've written quite a bit in my book as well.
It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you
Thank
so
you
so
for
much.
having me as a guest as well. Really
Oh,
appreciate it.
100%. I look forward to all of you. So, you know what? Have a great evening. If you're watching the replay, hashtag replay. And look, honestly, if you have any questions, please tag me so that I can make sure I see it. And we'll do our best to answer any questions you have anytime afterwards. Oh, Victoria.
No worries.
Oh,
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Billy. I saw your message come through.
yeah.
Um, Awesome. Feel free to reach out to Nancy or I or myself. Yeah, but it's been a pleasure having a chat with you guys. Have a
Yeah,
good night.
have a great night, guys, and keep
Yeah.
being creative. Mwah.